For today's millennial young person, there's always something new. Homework, work, hanging out with this one person. Always something to do, and oftentimes it feels like they all have equal importance. So you have things coming in from the left and things coming in from the right, both equally vying for your attention. We're not that good at managing our priorities, at knowing what's important. Today, we're talking about staying in focus. Roll intro. What's going on, young preacher? Welcome to another episode of Dear Young Preacher. So glad you're watching and you look good from across the camera world, the internet. Yeah, you look cool, and I'm so glad that you're watching another episode. This talk, we mentioned it in the intro. Today, we're talking about your priorities, staying in focus. And this honestly was an idea that came from a bishop, Bishop Claude Alexander in North Carolina. Bishop Alexander told me this story that after a death in the family, he realized the importance of reorganizing his priorities. And for a lot of young people, we have such a hard time at organizing what's important in life. And so everything is of equal importance. But just like in a syllabus, things are weighted differently. And it's important for us to recognize and scale which are more important. I know for me personally, a long time, a lot of my identity was in preaching. And so I found my identity in what I did. When I preached well and when people gave me credit for preaching well, I felt really good about myself. But when I didn't preach as well, or, I didn't get to preach as often, then, I found my swing, my mood would change drastically. Because we can't find our identity in what we do. You see, in all actuality, I wasn't preaching like on a weekly or even a monthly scale, and yet I put my identity in that thing. So my priorities were all out of whack. My life was not in focus. And so he said, what you need to do is really orient your life into the things that were most important. And so he noticed that number one, more than a great sermon that he could give his audience, his congregation, the first thing that he could give them is a healthy life. So he said, number one for me is a healthy life. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to work out. I'm going to find a hobby, take time to relax. Because what good is giving a phenomenal sermon if I'm really broken and not healthy in my life? So the first thing I could give my congregation, the first thing we all could do is give a healthy version of ourselves. Secondary for him, he says, then I could give them what an image of a healthy marriage looks like, because he was married. Then he said, I could give a healthy picture of me being a father, so my family is healthy. So self, marriage, family. Fourth on that list was then preaching. He says preaching is important. He's not saying it's not important, but it is important to reorganize and implement what is key in your life. Where is your identity found in? You could give some of the best creative sermons, but that's not what defines you. And so you have to just begin to try and reflect and understand who are you as a person? You need to get your life in focus. You need to stay in focus. And whenever you deviate that, you could then look back to that thing and be like, okay, this is who I am. First, I'm Benji, so I'm going to show self-care. And so what does it mean to be Benji? Yeah, preacher is on that list, but it can't be number one. You have to be a healthy self. Then I'm a son. Then I'm a friend. Then I'm a preacher. There's an order to that way. And if you keep your life out of focus, if you don't keep that thing in focus, then you won't be living with full understanding of who you are made to be. Surely God has given you gifts, but those gifts are not who you are. The moment we begin to misuse and misinterpret our gifts for identity, it's when we really begin to make a life out of focus. So your order needs to be, well, first I'm a Christian. First, God is the order, the one who controls, the one who directs my path. Next, I'm, fill in blank. I'm Benji. So that means taking care of myself. Third, I'm a son in a family. And so I orient myself through that. Fourth, I'm a friend. And so all those 4 areas of my life must be healthy. And then fifth, I'm a preacher. And so the preaching comes by fruit of all of the other things that I'm taking care of in my life. So know your order, get your perspectives and your priorities straight so you can stay in focus. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really think this is such an important conversation. Getting your life in order, your priorities in check, and staying focused, because it's so easy to deviate and delineate from that narrow path that we're called to. Check out a few of my other videos here and here. Follow, like, subscribe. So glad you're on this journey. Grace and peace.